I bought a weird toy from the dark web and now a killer is chasing me. Part 3. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I wasn't sure if I'd ever get the chance to post this, but I have to try. This might be my last message, so if anyone can help, now's the time. Things have gotten worse, far worse than I ever imagined. After my last post, I kept running. I drove to another state, staying in cheap motels, constantly looking over my shoulder. But no matter where I went, the doll was always there. Every night, it would show up in my room, sometimes on the bed, sometimes by the window, always with a new note. The messages got darker. You can't hide. It's almost time. And the most recent one, I see you. Yesterday, I decided I couldn't keep running. I needed answers, a solution. I went back to the dark web forum, searching for anyone who might know how to break the curse. I posted my story, begging for help. A user named Watcher in the Shadows responded, saying they knew someone who could help, an occult expert who lived off the grid. They gave me an address in the middle of nowhere. Desperate, I drove out there. The place was an old decrepit house surrounded by dense woods. The air was thick with the scent of decay and the windows were boarded up. I knocked on the door, and an old woman answered. Her eyes were milky white, and her skin was wrinkled like old parchment. She introduced herself as Margot and invited me in. The inside of the house was filled with strange artifacts, jars of unknown substances, and books with titles in languages I couldn't read. Margot listened to my story, nodding slowly. When I finished, she sighed and said, "You've meddled with something very old and very powerful. The doll is a vessel, a conduit for a malevolent spirit. It won't stop until it claims your soul." I asked her how to stop it, and she told me there was only one way, a final ritual, but it was dangerous and could cost me my life. With no other options, I agreed. She handed me a black candle, a silver dagger, and a piece of parchment covered in runes. She told me to go to a specific location in the woods at midnight, perform the ritual, and to be prepared for anything. That night, I drove to the location she described, a small clearing deep in the forest. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow on the trees. I set up the candle in the center of the clearing, placed the parchment in front of it, and held the dagger in my hand. As the clock struck midnight, I began to chant the words Margot had given me. The air grew colder, and the shadows around me seemed to come alive. The wind picked up, howling through the trees like a chorus of tormented souls. I kept chanting, my voice trembling. Then the candle's flame turned black, and the ground beneath me began to tremble. Out of the darkness, the figure in black appeared, the doll in its hands. Its eyes glowed with malevolence, and the whispers started again, louder and more frantic. The figure stepped forward, and I could feel its icy grip on my soul. Margot had warned me that this would be the moment of truth. I raised the dagger and sliced my palm, letting the blood drip onto the parchment. The runes glowed red and the shadows recoiled. I took a deep breath and recited the final incantation. The figure let out an unearthly scream, a sound that seemed to pierce the very fabric of reality. The doll burst into flames, and the figure convulsed, its form flickering like a bad signal. The ground shook violently, and I felt like I was being torn apart. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The figure and the doll were gone, and the clearing was silent. I collapsed to the ground, exhausted and bleeding. I don't know how long I lay there, but eventually, I managed to get up and stumble back to my car. Now I'm back in the motel, writing this. I think it's over. The doll is gone, and I don't feel its presence anymore. But I'm not sure. The figure's last words still haunt me. You can't escape your fate. If anyone out there knows more about this kind of thing, please reach out. I need to know if it's truly over, or if this is just the beginning of something even worse. Thank you for listening, and I hope none of you ever have to go through what I did. Stay safe everyone.